Welcome back to the county seat. Obviously, you are the crowd that wanted to find out the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say, who would be a big fan of what is the proponent here. He was a big defender of rural America. I did want to cover one thing that we didn't have a chance to cover on the air. One of your legs of the stool is education, and in particular rural education, how it will relate to this new paradigm of microeconomies. I guess that's a fair way to describe it.
Would be.
Explain that role to me and what education needs to look at on a rural level.
Sure. Absolutely. So we have a lot of extractive industries in rural America. The greatest one is our education system. We educate young men and women phenomenally to leave us. And they do. And there's three reasons why that occurs, but let's just cover the first one, and that is jobs. We're entering a period where we are going to have reshoring in America. If you look at China today, China is in deep trouble. Their environmental issues are horrendous. We're going to have a lot of reshoring for American industry. We're going to have advanced manufacturing. We're going to have entrepreneurial agriculture like we cannot even envision it. And we are going to have clusters and value chains out of the shale plays all over this verdant heartland of America in the future. That will only benefit rural places and people if young rural kids can have high quality jobs in all that. Three parts of that. First is aligning education, as I said earlier, with the private sector business community. Not every young girl or every young man in school needs a college education, but they need the skill set in the technical world to work in an industry that needs them. That requires regional universities to become place-based education institutions. That requires community colleges to be ramped up much more in terms of their alignment with the private sector.
Within
a
community.
Region. Right. In a region. Mm-hmm. It is a rural human capital development strategy that wins. Let me suggest to all your listeners they go look at the Arrowhead region of Minnesota. That is where the iron ore and taconite industry was, and they lost it all. The curators of the University of Minnesota took 5 community colleges, placed them down in that region with a charge and a president that would build workforce for that extraction area region. They lost 12,000 taconite jobs. 5 years later, they had them all back at 32% higher than the average wage before that industry closed. A wonderful success story, but it is a story of placemaking, cross-sector collaboration, education in the private sector, and government. Last thing I will say about education, it never ends. We are going to need in the next 30 years to have every job in rural America almost in continual improvement education. That is something our high schools, in collaboration with our community colleges, could build. Let's throw out the model and the tax structure and see all of education in a 7-county area as building the culture, workforce readiness, and wisdom of people. There's nothing that stops that but leadership, thoughtfulness, and commitment to change.
With this paradigm of building these micro communities and education targeting basically retention of your assets.
Correct, your human asset.
Your human asset. So you take the export of youth out, bring them back to the community.
Correct.
Is that going to change the dynamic of family life? Because that has been really challenged, shall we say, in the last 5 or 6 decades?
Most rural high schools gave their kids suitcases when they graduated. Mm-hmm. We should be giving them mailboxes instead. Or we should let them go away for 5 to 7 years, or even 20, when they start to have children and realize there's a place for you back here. Major national studies say 70% of Americans today, given a choice, would want to live in a smaller rural place. So absolutely, that's what it's about. It's going to take time, but I will tell you, Chad, where that is happening, it is changing the economy of those places. Gives you a younger workforce, creates new industries, People aging in place can be the manual work at a daycare center for their grandchildren. And we can build colleges to do that. This is happening in a lot of places. Two key things: leadership and vision.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Love
you
it,
for
Chad.
watching. Please tell your friends about this episode. This is a show they need to be watching. We'll see you next time on The County Seat. Thank you again.